Materia Ture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I don't know where the countries Slovenia and Slovakia are. I suspect there was some educational failings on that side of the House at some point. Charter school, that's what you give with charter schools. Mr. Chair, Heke Parata must go. Either she should be sacked by the Prime Minister, or what I would prefer her to do actually is to take a dignified exit and admit to her mistakes and step down, because she has clearly failed and failed and failed as a minister. And it's awful to see it happening to a perfectly nice, perfectly smart woman. But it's worse to see the impacts on our kids, because it doesn't matter what you might think about Heke Parata, at the end of the day, it is our kids who suffer from her failures. And the financial review that was undertaken by the Education and Science and Select Committee for 2011-12 actually sets out those failures in quite a lot of detail. In fact, the committee looked only at those failures and wrote a great deal about them. Nova Pay, the Christchurch schools restructuring, the class sizes debacle, charter schools, all of these are set out because those failures were so significant that the Education and Science Select Committee highlighted them as particular areas of concern, and they are certainly those areas of concern to the New Zealand public. It's already been said, of course, that the majority of New Zealanders do not believe that Heke Parata is competent enough to be Minister of Education, and I agree. And we must make sure that we protect our kids from incompetent ministers who have such authority over their lives now as children in the education system in their schools, but more importantly in how their life trajectory will roll out, their capacity and their ability to do well in their future. We need to look, I think, sir, at charter schools, and that's my particular focus for my contribution this evening. Charter schools are certainly the best way for government to suck money out of the public school system and hand it on to private hands. It, along with the sale of our public assets, is just another form of privatisation of public assets. But privatisation of our most critical children's institution, their schools, the places where they spend most of their time, the institutions that are most dedicated to their well-being and to their future. The charter schools debate really is a debate about the poor versus the rest, and about why it is that this national government is so committed to providing a substandard alternative schools to our most vulnerable learners. To say that charters offer poor parents a comparable choice is an insult. John Banks has always maintained that charter schools will be an alternative and not compulsory in any local community, but let's just think about what that means in practical terms. This means that this government, the ACT Party board, who will decide where charter schools goes, will be running 2 schools in areas. So where the government would never normally build a second school in an area where there is already sufficient or overcapacity, but the ACT Party board responsible for choosing the charter schools will be doing exactly that, and that has very serious financial implications, particularly when you look at the application documents for charter schools that were released last week, that these charter schools, these private schools, should be funded on the same basis as brand new state schools. So effectively sucking money out of the public system to establish schools where there is already capacity or overcapacity. And let's just have another think about what that means for Christchurch, for the Christchurch community and others around the country who have had vibrant, successful schools set for closure so that money can be sucked out of them only to be funnelled into private schools where there's already overcapacity. Teachers. Rich people don't send their kids to private schools because the teachers are untrained and unregistered. But yet these are the kinds of schools and the teachers that will be in front of our most vulnerable learners under the charter schools model, according to the ACT Party board. Why should poorer kids be subject to this experiment? That's been the big question that's certainly been raised in the Select Committee looking at the legislation. Where is the evidence that this will work for these kids? Because in fact, if you look at the evidence, there is none. The evidence shows that these schools will harm our kids and certainly not help them. And not only that, but these schools will have 3 years to experiment on our kids. So I want to...
I'll take Honourable Nikki Kay.
Mr Chair, I'm very pleased to speak in this appropriations debate. Can I start by saying what our government is focused on in education